Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for joining another live stream on the VS Code channel. Hope everybody's doing great. Um, we have already some people here on the chat. William Quishin, hey, back to you. How you doing? And we have Amin from France. Hello, everybody that's there. And also Valtar and Scott and Ravi. Okay, I'm really excited. Folks, I don't want to waste any more time. I want to go ahead and introduce our first guest, Jaime George, who is going to be chatting with us. I will let him tell you what he's going to be talking about. Hello, Jaime. This is
Hi
my
there.
this is
Thank
my
you so much for
this is my
is your clap.
automatic sound effect. For you.
Awesome.
Everybody has like those
Okay,
fancy ones. I'm like on a low budget here. I'm just do it myself.
makes sense. Well, thank you so much, Reynald. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the warm reception. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I'm Jaime. We're in Portugal. Jaime. Yeah, I'm from Codacy. So yeah, quite excited to be here today with you.
Nice. So, what are you going to be chatting with us about? It's a pretty cool extension from what I see, right?
Yes, yeah, we've been buzzing and excited about this. We're demonstrating what we call Codacy Guardrails, which is a whole extension for VS Code that operates alongside and collaborating with the agent mode. Amazing feature from VS Code, so that every single code generation is secure and safe and follows our rules. So we're going to introduce and unveil some really cool stuff also today here, which includes rule building with agents. So yeah, quite excited about this.
All right, cool. So, can you share your screen so we could take a look at the extension itself to see what we're talking about? Codacy. All right.
Exactly. So Codacy essentially is a company that focuses on end-to-end quality and security testing. So we focus from the moment where code is written, especially with AI. We come in and find security issues. When code is about to be merged, we come in also, we find security issues so that code with vulnerabilities doesn't get merged. And then also in production, we also do dynamic application security testing. So end to end. And we've been really focused on getting a great VS Code extension in. And so it's a whole way for you to not only get code analysis locally, but also in the cloud. So today we're unveiling two main things within our code extension. One is our CLI that analyzes code locally with any tool, both ours and from most tools available also in the market, as well as a SAMCP server that enables coding agents and the assistant agent mode to use all of the code analysis and all of our API.
All right. So now, when Codacy was created, it was like the main purpose for security, and then it also does a lot of other like analysis that's not specifically security related, or is everything that it does focused on security and somewhat security related?
So we originally started as a quality company. We were really making sure in the very beginning that companies can have standards as they review code in GitHub. And so many of our features enable policies as standards for organizations. But with the advent of agent mode and very exciting features coming from the Visual Studio Code team, we were able now to bring all of the capability from code analysis with code security that we have to empower agents to produce beautiful, secure code as it starts and as it generates.
Got it. Got it. All right. Well, let's go ahead and well, you know what? Before I even like say let's start for developers that are uh, new to um, application development and they're not like so focused on security because I noticed that that's sometimes that happens a lot. People are focused on just getting the work done and then they put security like on the back end until like something happens and they're like, oh snap, we should have thought about security. Um, is there any way that Codacy could be set up so that it's like friendly for like new developers that's not experts in terms of like what's the best way to set up secure applications, or is it more
100%.
for seniors?
No, 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 100%. We've made this whole extension completely accessible to install very quickly. So we have full installation how-tos here, but also very easy to set up and then free. So for a junior developer all the way to senior, you can start using AI coding agents immediately, but without vulnerabilities. Because the problem here today is that 30 to 50% of AI generated code contains vulnerabilities. In fact, some studies have shown that 1 out of every 3 code completions can have a vulnerability, and we'll see it today. And so having this mindset of security so we can move as fast as we want while being secure is our mantra here at Codacy.
All right, cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it then.
Okay, well, thank you for that. As I mentioned, this is our extension. It has an MCP server, has CLI, a local CLI that analyzes code locally, and that with the MCP agent, we have the agent operating that also for us. And so let's start with a very simple example. So something that some users, particularly some developers, particularly junior, might do, create a simple, lightweight Java server using Undertow. So I'm essentially creating a simple scenario of starting a project. I'm baiting the model a bit because I'm giving already an idea of the library that I want to use. But this is quite important because I want to be showcasing. Ooh, this is pretty big. Let me actually find. This is too large. 1 second. Let me get the controls. Is this better? It's better. Is this, are we good?
Folks in the comment, if that's hard to see, just let us know. But otherwise, we could just continue so we don't that's
okay. So it did a lot of stuff while I was changing the font. But one of the things that it did was it suggested, before even completing the analysis, a vulnerable security vulnerability. So we can see from here, but essentially it suggested a version of Undertow that was vulnerable. But because we gave the capability to agent mode to check for vulnerabilities, it identified the issue and immediately fixed it, even before it finished, right? And even checked if the issue was fixed. And so what we do essentially is, from the moment we do a prompt, we are giving the agent ability to see vulnerabilities for themselves without us even having to worry too much, right? And so we're quite excited about this because it's already saving from a lot of money. From this particular example, and I've practiced this demo a lot before, 100% of the times, I got the same vulnerability because it's a training model thing. It's not even a VS Code thing. It's just the models that we have, and there are training dates involved, obviously. And so it's done, it's ready to go, and it's without any vulnerabilities, which is great.
So it fixed an issue that it saw right away. But I'm assuming if you had any concern about double checking before it fixed it, you could set it up so that you could confirm before it fixes it. Is that right?
So as soon as we find a very critical or a high severity security issue, we give instructions as part of our extension for the Copilot to fix things, because we want to make sure that every code that it generates is, before the user starts editing it, it's safe, especially when it comes to vulnerabilities.
But so what about for the developers that might say, okay, but we created a bunch of sensitive tests, and anytime something's changed, we might want to run a test again. So I would rather see what's going to get changed first in case it's going to affect my tests.
Of
What would you
course.
think someone that says something like that?
In those particular cases, what we do, we give full access to all the rules here. So if you want to fine-tune your Codacy analysis experience, you have access fully to the instructions that we share, as part of our extension. So you can really get the custom experience that you want. So if you want to have just, for example, in a particular moment, you can give these, you can have that customized experience of security. Now, it's not what we advise. We want to make sure that every single instance of code generated is safe, especially when it comes to libraries being suggested, because very often they're not, they have vulnerabilities.
All right. Okay. Makes sense. So those are the best practices that you suggest.
Correct. If just to showcase what it produced, because I know that this is the version that it produced, the code that it does produce is this library, and we evaluate in real time all code being edited here. So we can see that the original code being edited before the correction had a vulnerability here. So this is code running Codacy CLI locally using the Trivy tool and finding the issue. So this is a first example of Codacy Guardrails.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe jump to another one. We've seen Java. Let me actually keep all these files, and I'm gonna also delete them here for a second. And I'm gonna create a new project in Flask. Create a new Flask server with just one endpoint, just so it doesn't create a lot of code, because sometimes models can get creative. But yeah, we're super excited, especially because agent mode is such a game changer in how VS Code operates.
Now, are you using like the free version of agent mode that comes with a Copilot, or is this like a premium version that you purchased?
Right now, I'm using the premium version with Sonnet 4 because it runs really smoothly. I'm also using VS Code Insider's Edition, but we've proven that with certain amount of models, this still works. And so that's the current status.
Okay.
I don't know if you had a chance to see what happened here, but we were able to. It added a new library, and identified, and it fixed automatically, right?
Oh, okay.
Cool. I think it's good enough for now, because this is exactly what I wanted. A simple web server with a hello world, right? And so now imagine, let's put a scenario where I want to connect to the Slack API because I want to get messages, or because I want to push messages, not particularly the most common scenario to do a hello world with a connection to, but bear with me. We're trying to demo a few examples here. So imagine that we use Copilot's inline autocompletion, and we ask connect to the Slack API. And it's going to do the work. It's going to do some, going to introduce the boilerplate required to connect to the Slack API. And there we go. Now, what I wanted to demo is, let's also imagine, I go back to the code. Accept. Imagine also now that we are moving really fast, and I don't have a lot of time because I'm trying to create this proof of concept, or just because I was lazy that day. And instead of having what is a good practice to have an environment variable, which I can then push a different variable to production, I just really go and be lazy and put a key here, which we should never do.
Right.
Right? So that's another component of what we do here at Codacy, which is we make sure that secrets are being scanned as and identified. So immediately as that token is passed, it's not a real token, by the way. Please don't try to use it. It identified a generic not only API key but also a Slack user token, right? And there's many different tools that find this, just to also share. And what I'm trying to evidence is the ability for AI eventually to correct the issues that we create as users.
Okay. We have a question here from Amin. She says, can we have a guide on how to install the extension and configure it to work with VS Code plus agent? Is that like in the standard documentation when installing the extension, or do you have
Completely.
a site?
Yes, exactly that. So if we open the README, we've actually updated all of our documentation so that there's how tos, there's troubleshooting, there's requirements and installation, there's first use, there's troubleshooting also, and we've also added something that is not typical, but as far as very important, which is support chat. So this connects directly to our chat system at Codacy, where our team works. So you can actually ask and answer and get answers for any problems that you might be having. So with that, Codacy should work. And also adding lots of fixes for particular problems that we found over the last few months, because the adoption has been very, very, very interesting. I hope that answers the question.
Yes. Erasmus thinks that this is cool, so that individual's like really excited about it. When someone's like going through their workflow, is this something that's constantly checking for the security issues, or is it something that once you're like building, and is it something you execute to review like later on when you're about to deploy, or
It's a very
commit?
good question. It scans as you type. So as you're producing software, and see, in real, let's see in real time. So if I remove this token, all the issue will disappear, right? Because there will be no more secret being identified. But if I go back, it's going to rescan the file in real time using Guardrails CLI, and it's going to again identify the issue. So we add also this to the problem section, which helps people to see also, and very importantly, helps the agent to see if there's a problem also to be addressed. It tries to be as non-intrusive. There's many configurations. So, for example, if you are activated all the tools and you're getting many results, then there's ways to reduce those issues and get more configuration. But this is really useful, especially for secrets and vulnerabilities. It's a must-have.
Okay. So for those of us who haven't thought too much about security, but want to take it much more seriously now, like what are some of like the common security issues you've seen in the past, which is really which Codacy really helps to clean up? Maybe if there's like the top four that you could think of.
So top one, without a doubt, that happens, again, 1 in every 3 code generations is vulnerabilities. So getting the requirements, as soon as you ask AI agents to install dependencies for you, get requirements from any single language, it is very likely that it proposes versions of those libraries that have vulnerabilities. So that's top one. Again, as I mentioned before, in the first example in Java, I was able to reproduce that security vulnerability 100% of the times. So that's number one. Number two is secret scanning, because we don't want at all to have secrets exposed in our code. That's a very common problem. That's more of a human thing, because AI does not immediately generate. So there's already guardrails in the models and VS Code to get these things in. So, but still, we want to make sure that we get them before they're merged or they're pushed into GitHub. The third one will be more kind of vulnerabilities. So maybe we can generate one for us right now. Another one that I would say, as an example, is let's create an SQL query using string interpolation. Now, I am baiting the model, because SQL query using string interpolation is another way to say, I want to create an SQL injection. So it's not particularly common for people to use a prompt like this, but it can happen. And I'm trying to evidence that issues can be found. So as we can see here, it generated the code as we expect. It runs code analysis to check for the security issue. And lo and behold, we found the SQL injection, which is exactly what we wanted. And so another thing that I would love to show, we don't need to continue to do that, but another thing that I would love to show is, imagine, for example, that we have a team of developers or just developers are starting, and they just don't really like the code that they're seeing. Or if they want to build their own rule, well, we can also do that. We can pick up this line of code here, add selection to chat. So now we're seeing that we're looking exactly at this line of code, and let's create a new rule live.
Now, is that related to the question that you just that's on the screen? Because Mark just asked, so it's possible to configure the rules. Is this exactly like what you're showing, or is this a separate question?
It's connected to that, because what we see is it's exactly that. It's not only possible to configure the rules fully through the tools and what we give access here in all the tools configs that you might want to use, but also you can create new rules if you want to see them live. So just to also show you, we can talk while this produces, but this is a great example of an SQL injection, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a great example. We already have a rule for that, but let's create a new one. Simple example of the SQL injection, maybe using Enigma, which is a tool that we developed not only to find secrets, but also to build new rules, which we're showcasing today. It's the first time we talk about it publicly. And let's create a new rule for this. Now, again, the point here is that we're trying to do is create infinite flexibility in how code security, code quality is done, and letting agents be consistent, because security cannot rely on non-determinism, and we want things to be consistent over time.
Got it. All right. Let's see what else is going on in the comments here. There's this one here. So does it kind of relate to how CodeRabbit works? As far as I know, CodeRabbit reviews the codes, but this tool is a bit more advanced, I would say, by instantly noticing token key.
We are very different from CodeRabbit because we are code analysis. We are rule-based. And so we're not yet another model to analyze code. And many other systems do that. Particularly, we're looking at one. We're looking right now at Copilot in VS Code, which is state-of-the-art. So there's already a lot of that. What we can provide, which is unique right now, is the ability for our coding agents to leverage these rules and be very consistent. And so we are not yet another model. We are certainty and security analysis, right? And so that's very different. Every secret will be caught. And that's a really important thing. I just wanted to go back just to say the rule that we built is working now in real time. So we've built a rule, we asked the agent to build a rule, and it's working. It's finding now new SQL injections, which is very exciting.
Nice. So, like, from your experience, how big of a problem is security? Like, what way do we even measure that? Like, we hear about some hacks on the news, but like, realistically, like, how often is it happening across companies? Like, how do you explain this is a big deal to people?
It's really our mission in Codacy is creating enterprise-grade security for the new age of AI-assisted coding, because it was already a problem before. Even today, we saw a company, very known company, I think it was Victoria's Secret, that had their website down and exposed, and it's concerning at a scale that is unimaginable. And it's only intensifying. It's only increasing in dimension, in dimension, the problem, because we are producing more code than ever. We are getting more and more software and faster. It's a very interesting stat is that by 2028, according to Gartner, 90% of the enterprise software engineers will use AI code assistance, and there was less than 14% last year. And the advent of AI coding is going to accelerate some things if we don't have guardrails. So security is a huge problem. Yeah.
Okay. And I suspected this would have come up. Can I use this as an indie dev?
100%. So this is completely free to install. The only thing you will need is a Codacy account to make sure that you can download everything. But it's completely free to use. You'll get access to the tools that we're seeing here. You get secret scanning. You get vulnerability testing. Again, we work with a lot of open source tools exactly because of this, because we want to give this power to also the community. And then if you want to up level, and then all of a sudden you have a team and you want to make sure you have standards across everyone, then we'll have an offering for you that we have pretty large companies using, pretty large customers using. But again, the point here is exactly, yes, as an indie dev, you should be using that. We want you to use this to be safe as you code very fast.
So from your customer base, though, in regards to AI, like how are you seeing it? Like it is like half your customers like already using it? Like how would you answer that?
It's growing. The adoption of AI is growing. We ask that question very frequently to our customers. We ask them many times, how's the adoption of AI? Do you have policies in place to adopt AI? The IDs that they're using, most of them, by the way, use VS Code. And in our experience, plus surveys that we've seen, many, especially leaders and security decision makers, are worried about the security of AI generated code. So a lot of them are getting AI adopted, many times without policies. And so we're trusting our developers to do the right thing, obviously. And we got actually some interesting stats that not necessarily from surveys that we did, but from surveys that we got also, less than half developers are using AI assistants that have been officially approved by organizations. So this is spreading like wildfire, without a doubt.
So let me ask you this, because I feel like this is something that doesn't come up often. Like all our jobs that we have, most of us, like 99% of us, have gone through interviews, right? So security is a big deal. Like how would you tell a developer that's trying to get into like a new high level development position to organically, be able to mention experiences about using like a tool like this to implement security? How could they organically say that security is important organically in the process of trying to like secure a position?
Well, that's a really good question. There's a few things. First of all, I think code is still one of the best CVs that one can have, right? And so if you're looking at code that is super well organized, that is high quality, that takes into consideration factors and principles like code, the security by design, and making sure that there's no secrets there, that you can show, for example, a Codacy profile or repo that doesn't have any issues, and all the security, like that goes a long way. Especially, for example, if in the process of being hired, you're going into a coding challenge, you open up VS Code, you get the Codacy extension in, and boom, there's no security issues there. So you can move and get as much security as you want. And so we have customers that use Codacy for a number of different factors. One of them is actually to assess the quality of code that is not writing necessarily by them. And I think it's important to understand that this is a factor, right? Many times we as developers want to move fast, want to get things done, but yeah, security is a very important factor.
NDIO here asks, like everyone's putting their AI in their names. In their name. How does it do with large code bases? Is there any performance here?
We have customers with fairly large code bases. I'm talking like millions of lines of code, several. And given that we are leveraging code analysis locally, and that we're leveraging tools that are typically performant, unless you have many tools, and with each tool having many rules, the performance is quite good. And so we are obviously fine tuning to make sure that this is fast. The main thing we want to make sure is that with large code base is the number of issues that you get. So the configuration of those rules of those tools is very, very, very important. So you don't have false positives, but it works well. In summary, it works well. We have that's been what we work on in Codacy, is making sure larger companies can use this product.
Cool. I think there's one question here that we had more info that we missed. A Diable Image asks, does Codacy provide more info into vulnerable dependencies? Because I think you mentioned
It
that.
sure does. It sure does. So in this particular example, we can maybe create one here. If not mistaken, this might have a vulnerability. Hopefully, yes, it does. And so it does have, if we have vulnerable dependencies, we will scan the code locally, we'll find the issues, we'll give you documentation on those issues. Typically, the AI agent will fix it for you, which is even better. And if this code gets checked in and there's vulnerable dependencies there, you're able in Codacy Cloud, which is essentially our UI that integrates with GitHub and everything, to see a trace of all the dependencies and the different versions across all the repos, not even one repo, across all the repos. So yes, we do that when essentially we have a larger organization with more repos.
Nice. All right, cool. Was there more that you wanted to show us?
I do. So this is something, I have one final vulnerability to show you, also just to give you an idea. One that we don't catch, but I'm hoping to find. So let's create a Python function. Give me just 1 second. That takes a URL and returns the content of the URL using the requests library. So I'm trying to create a simple function that uses the request library, fetch the URL, and make sure that that is installed. So this is install requests. I don't know if this has a vulnerability or not. Actually, let's test. It, as it installs the dependency, it runs the security analysis on the updated requirements, and great, no security vulnerability. So this is a time that we have a coffee because we don't need to be worried.
Okay.
So as we go, it designs the method that we want. So it's a simple method that gets a URL. I can pause for now because I don't need anything else. It's not scanning. I don't want it to scan. We can scan locally. And you can see that we're not finding any issue here, but there's an issue here, which is if this is an endpoint, which is not in this case, but still, the URL will be, if this is an endpoint, then in the middle of an HTTP request, the server is going to make an HTTP request. And that's what's called a server-side request forgery, which is a problem that we don't want to find, that we don't want to have, essentially. And so what I'm going to do very quickly, just to also showcase the power of what we've been building, I'm going to add these lines to Copilot, and I'm going to create a new rule. I'm going to give all the context in the prompt that I prepared because it's a bit more complex code analysis pattern that we're building here. But essentially, we've asking it to create an Enigma rule, our own code analysis rule, to find these particular issues. Let's see if it works. Again, the idea here is we're using the IDE to build rules for the AI agent to be always consistent when it comes to security. That's the dream. That's what we're trying to do. And it did.
Nice.
It created a rule, and let's see if it finds. And it does. Wow, first try. I wasn't expecting this. That's great. Let's see if it does highlight the code. It does. Yay, right? So just created this rule in real time to show you essentially that you also can be your own security engineer from now on, right? You can get Codacy Guardrails to build rules for you. You can use 15,000 code analysis rules at your disposal for free and get them inside your IDE, configure them as much as you want, and be safe as you move really fast.
Now, you had a really nice prompt that you use. Did you write that prompt like manually, because like sometimes I use AI to like write my prompts because I sometimes I tend to forget like little things to add to make the prompt even more powerful. Or is it just you yourself, or do you like use AI and then like double check that it's like a good prompt? How do you provide quality prompts?
It's an excellent question. I've taken very different approaches, especially when coding. If I'm coding something very simple for a demo purposes, like I'm doing now, I will code. I will write the prompts manually and iterate to see what is the result, what is working, what is not, and so also gives me opportunity to see how the agent is operating. When we're looking at features and more extensive work, I've also building MD files, Markdown files, with context and documentation, exactly our intentions. It's a great best practices because it then gives something for the model to go back and say, oh, okay, this is part of the project. He wants to do that, so I don't lose context on new prompts. So that takes away some of the effort and the pain and the burden of giving all the context all the time in each prompt. So yeah, this is something that we're doing.
All right. RRA asks, will Enigma be open sourced?
It's an excellent question. We don't have plans to open source at this time. We're trying to make sure that Enigma works well and operates well. In the future, we might open up, and especially because we were trying to make people use and get some rules locally for them. And as that takes some adoption, maybe we'll open up, but that's not on the plans for now.
Nice. All right. What else? KMOS.
Well, that's pretty much it. Another thing that we could show very quickly, and we're nearing the end here of our demo, is maybe I can share another screen. Is just very quickly the ability for us to work also with, because we're dealing with an MCP server.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that we also do is give you the ability for, I'm in the same thing, wait, it wasn't this one. A second, there we go, missed the window. Is because we're dealing with the MCP server, we also give access to agent mode to connect with all the API from Codacy. So that means that you have access, for example, to coverage information about your code, cyclomatic complexity information from all your code, any dynamic application security testing that you might have run after code is already in production. So all of this also is fully accessible through your agent. So if we ask, can I get coverage information for this repo? I don't need to be so polite, but it's good practice. In this particular case, in the previous example, we didn't have a repo. Now we do, and that's registered in Codacy. And so it's using our API, getting all the information, and it's going to summarize and give us a bit of a result here. And this is useful also as you scale your solution. You have unit tests. You want to see the coverage of those unit tests. Now you can oversee. Coverage percentage 78.57%, which is, well, a small project, small repo, but you can see per file the coverage also. So you can summarize and do whatever. You can now run and generate tests. And so that's a specific use case for you to access all the security and quality information also of your Codacy account.
Yeah, because there are particular teams that like to have like detailed documentation regarding like what actions that they taken to be secure. So you would recommend this would be like the best way to get the type of coverage that was done and like put that into documentation, or is there like another way, or is this the most efficient?
Well, it's another way, because teams already have their processes, especially with dealing with low coverage or a task to increase coverage. And with this, we can quickly understand, well, tell me exactly the files with lowest coverage, right? In this particular case, for example, we have one file and has 78%, and I can work on this one and increase coverage of this file. and VS Code gives me immediate access to the file. There's other things to do that we could do. For example, I want to see all the DAST issues found in my organization. Top 20, please. And this is another way to operate and interact with all the API that we have. Again, this is only works if you're using Codacy Cloud. We're not using just local analysis. We're just feeding more information to our AI agent after having it already analyzed in the cloud. But then with this, you could get, as I'm showing, all the issues prioritized. You can prioritize and then tackle them using your AI agent. So you have the best coding agent at work, which is these models, which is Copilot. Now it can fix code for you. And so, yeah, that's we're giving it superpowers to the IDE.
Very cool. This is awesome. This is cool. And
thank you.
And it's nice to, have security be addressed now in a much easier fashion, because, it's one of those things that people tend to just forget, especially when they have to like meet deadlines, until something bad happens, and then they're like, "Oh,
100%.
now we have security."
100%. We don't believe in security as an afterthought or as a gate. It needs to be baked into the process of writing code. And I think the beautiful work that is being done in VS Code, especially with agent mode, I think this is the right opportunity to help the development community. And so this is why we're making the whole code analysis locally free with all of our extension, and we're so excited about it.
Nice. So if folks want to just try this out, it's just as straightforward as just downloading the extension. Is there anything else that they should know in terms of, resources, like new features that you're going to come out? Do you have like releases every month or anything like that? Like, how could they stay up to date with everything Codacy is doing?
Of course. Well, we're investing a lot in this extension, so we're getting releases every 2 hours almost, because we're making it better over time. We have a few large milestones coming up with really exciting things that don't exist yet in the market, so we're quite excited about that. So stick around and install it, and then let us know what your feedback is, because we want to make sure that you have the best experience possible with security while moving super fast with agent mode and VS Code. Follow us, LinkedIn, Twitter, all these different channels, on GitHub as well, and give us feedback. We'd love to help you. So thanks for watching.
Yeah, this has been awesome, Jaime. I'm glad you came on and shared all this with us, so that we could be a little bit safer with the products that we're building. So
that was wonderful. Thank you, Reynald.
All right, folks. So that's it for now. Thanks so much for joining. Please go ahead and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. We also are on TikTok. We're back on there, so you could follow us there, in addition to subscribing to YouTube. And we also now have a LinkedIn page. I think I need to make sure our producer has that in for us next time. But that's it for now, and we will see you guys on the next stream.